Welcome to the Real Money Show, the number 18778 Silver, and the website guildhallwealth.com. If you've been watching the precious metals market this week, hopefully you've been getting excited and just wringing your hands, getting ready to make some purchases. It's been a very interesting week in that regard, and we want to get into the signal versus the noise and what it all means, and is it a sign of what's to come, and what it all means, right, Jerry?
Exactly.
My name is Jeremy Wiseman. I'm joined by Jerry Correa, the number 18778 Silver, the website guildhallwealth.com, and we want to welcome you to the Real Money Show. So, Jerry, the overall commentary that I received from a lot of people this week who got a little bit concerned about the pullbacks in the markets was, oh, this is because of Trump coming in. It's all a sign of Trump. First of all, I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, it's definitely a digestion from the results. It was a landslide victory. He's putting people into place that he said he would, like him or hate him. He's making moves, and he's doing what he's putting into position what he's focused on, and people really need to really focus on his crosshairs. His crosshairs has always been a loose monetary policy, and the market's spinning it as it's going to be inflationary, and he's going to balloon the mark. He's going to balloon the spending, which is going to destroy the Federal Reserve. And one thing that's for sure, he loved low rates. He's always been critical of the Fed, Chairman Powell. He even once stated he wanted negative interest rates. So we got to watch his moves. So I think what's being pushed is a narrative that he's going to be inflationary. But really, what it comes down to, the main focus is the Federal Reserve, and his crosshairs are on the Fed.
Okay, so the Federal Reserve, something we're going to discuss a little bit further in the show and dig in on that. My interpretation was this. I was following on X, tracking all of the analysts in the market, and one of the biggest things I noted leading up to the election and post-election was that they were raising margin requirements on both gold and silver, specifically on silver. And we know what happens when you raise margin requirements on the metals. It means it's more expensive to hold on to them. And the idea is, if they keep the narrative reason to raise margin is to say, oh, we're trying to get rid of volatility in the market, or whatever it is they want to say.
Sure, okay.
At the end of the day, we know why they're doing it. It's because they want people to cough up the long positions that people have taken in the market. And if you make it more expensive for them to hold on to these positions, they're just going to let them go. So you soften them up, right? You're pounding the meat. You're getting it nice and tender. And then when you're ready, you hit the market with 400 million ounces of fake product.
Paper, instruments.
How many people sold this week, Jerry?
That was my question. Who sold? I can tell you, Jeremy, who sold. According to Bloomberg, record-breaking outflows hit gold ETFs after Trump's election. The world's largest ETF, gold, GLD, which is not backed by physical, that will never deliver the physical, experienced the biggest weekly outflow in over 2 years. And according to the market pundits or market experts, the gold ETF is the gold market, apparently.
Right. So, and let's be clear that the people who are invested in ETFs don't own any actual physical product. They are not what you would consider strong hands. The fact that ease of liquidity of that, because you don't own anything, makes it very easy to knee-jerk reaction out of that. And we've talked about that, having these financial options available for people who insist on owning precious metals, these sorts of things.
That's fine.
What you have there is an investment, not ownership. So getting back to the margin requirements, we saw them go up, tenderized the market, got them to start letting go of their positions, and then they moved in and shorted the market even more, sold off a bunch of fake product into the market, and that gets everybody at it, right?
Yeah.
The narrative is that people conflate what's actually going on in the world in terms of behind the scenes in the market, and they just look and say, oh, Trump won the election, so it must have to do with that. And they just completely misinterpret the signals of what's really going on. And then, of course, yesterday or 2 days ago? No, I think it was yesterday. We saw that, well, wouldn't you know it, they started to lower margin requirements on the futures contracts for silver. In other words, they're getting right back on the train, ready to push it back higher. Mm-hmm. So you got forced out of your long position. Market comes down, and now they're getting ready. What's going to happen next, according to Vince Lanci, as he always discusses, is now you want to see the pile on for those who think that, it's just going to continue.
Yeah.
The momentum is going to continue down. Where were you when it was at 34? We want to hit it when it's at 30.50 and start to short the market. And that way the bullion banks get them on the other side as well, or rather the big banks like Bank of America get them on the other side. So we've seen this play out so many times that it's just, you sit back, you go, And then as well, I'd add two other things. One, when you look at where the market has been over the course of the last 365 days, remind yourself that back in less than a year ago, the price of silver was trading at under $24 an ounce. So it had a really, really big move, and it's okay. And I was saying to you, Jerry, that just reminding ourselves that in January, when the price of gold was $2,000 an ounce, we're twiddling our thumbs, completely twiddling our thumbs. No one cared in January that the price had broken this new all-time high. Then it goes up all the way to $2,800, comes down into the $2,600 range. And it's like, people aren't quite throwing themselves out of windows.
No.
But they're very concerned all of a sudden. And it's like, but we're up $600.
Yeah, this is a retest. Nothing ever goes up in a straight line, although gold and silver were rallying with that, had that type of price action, breaking all-time highs almost every day in the gold market. And I think it caught too much attention rapidly, too quick. And you're having major institutions, major banks piling into the gold and silver market. Silver especially, having Russia adding silver to its monetary reserves. We're not just talking industrial reserves or a stockpile. This is monetary reserves, meaning this is here for liquidity purposes. This is here for market setting and market price scheduling. So this is something that we just had to digest. 5 days of digesting what's been going on post-election. So I call this a digest. I think we've already digested the news. Why do I say that? Well, gold and silver are retesting the 2-month low as the U.S. dollar index, the Dixie, marches to a 1-year high. As this market is figuring out, are these Trump tariffs inflationary? And I think what the market experts, and I say that with quotes on, they're saying they think that the tariffs are going to be inflationary. If you look in the economic textbooks, it may say that it is, but we have to look at the overall policy. Now, market experts are saying mainstream markets are somehow dismissing gold as a hedge right now, Jeremy, against inflation, despite Trump's policies potentially raising U.S. inflation. So they're thinking that the tariffs are going to be inflationary. Obviously, if you're going to put prices on imports coming in, the prices will be higher, but it'll focus more on the domestic market. Let's boost the domestic side. But he also brought up something earlier in the year about something that the forefathers had in their pocketbook, which was impoundment. And people often overlook that, where you want to talk about inflation and what was inflationary. Fiscal spending, sending $85 billion a week to a country had nothing to do with the people, and you're going to keep pumping and spending 85. We know it was money laundering. It was coming right back into their coffers. Impoundment claws that back. It stops the spending. So if you want to say that the tariffs are going to be inflationary, you have to analyze it properly. So looking back at the silver and gold market, despite gold and silver retesting 2-month lows, this is a good opportunity. Gold and silver are still up 24% on gold, 28% on silver. The Fed signals are now in focus. We got Chairman Powell speaking later today. We're recording on a Thursday. But the thing that I focus on being in currencies is the Dixie, the U.S. dollar index, because gold and silver are inversely correlated to this strong dollar that we're seeing because the tariffs and inflation. Somehow Trump is gonna raise interest rates. When have we seen Trump ever say he wants to raise interest rate? Does he like being in real estate, a real estate mogul? He loves low interest rates. He wants to refinance. That's what he does. So this strong dollar has peaked to a 1-year high, Jeremy. The US dollar index is at the peak level. So we should be at a peak sell-off in precious metals. This should be around the bottom here, $30.60 US, $30.50 maybe on silver, and gold, as you mentioned, around the 26.20 mark is a good support level. So if you're following the dips and you want to play the dips and try to pick the dips, this is something where I would consider, knowing that we have further interest rate cuts happening in the States. In Canada, that's coming up too. So use your loonies wisely, Canadian.
The number 18778 silver and the website guildhallwealth.com. If you want to acquire physical precious metals, Guildhall is one of the best places to go to. We only deal in LBMA approved product. That means global liquidity is assured. We also offer registered accounts, so you can own it physically, have it held in a vault facility outside the banking system, fully allocated, fully segregated to you. You have direct ownership of your own physical precious metals within your RSP, your TFSA, your first-time home buyer's account, any type of account you can think of that's registered. You can hold actual physical product, and it's something that we'll show you how to do. We walk you through the entire process. We'll do all the heavy lifting, and it's a great place to hold physical precious metals for the long term. Again, 18778 silver, the website guildhallwealth.com. Well, Jerry, it's that time again. Nothing goes up in a straight line, and so the market has pulled off a little bit, and we've got to ask ourselves, what in the world has changed? So let's ask ourselves, have we gotten rid of the $300+ trillion in global debt?
No, that's actually going up.
Did the U.S. debt that's closing in on $36 trillion, has that disappeared overnight?
No.
Has the money printing stopped around the world?
No.
As far as today is concerned?
Not today.
Okay. Are central banks around the world, did they stop accumulating gold all of a sudden, or are they continuing to acquire physical gold as we speak?
Aggressively. No one's selling off any gold or silver. What they're selling off is the paper, silver, and gold, but heavy, aggressive purchasing of physical precious metals.
Okay. Did the BRICS nations throw in the white towel and say, okay, guys, we give up. The dollar's going to be strong. We need to stop meeting like this. We can't have any more meetings. We can't do this unit. We can't keep creating trade deals with each other. We just need to stop. We need to stop right now. Are the BRICS done?
No.
Okay. So fundamentally speaking, the debts have already been incurred. They have to be paid off somehow. And it's very interesting because I was listening to an interview today with David Kranzler, who's a great analyst in the market, and Chris Marcus on Arcadia, and they kind of got into it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, because as you know, I very much strongly believe, you look at the BRICS nations, you look at everything that's happening, you say, we are headed towards a monetary reset. 2008, there was a crisis. They kicked the can down the road, but they didn't solve anything. They just bought themselves some time. And now it's time to actually fix the monetary system around the world. And we've seen it starting to collapse everywhere, which is why the BRICS have come on so strong. Why are they so strong? You know, if it was Larry Summers' strong dollar policy of the 90s, and a country in Africa decided that they wanted to join the BRICS, they would have been facing down the barrel of a gun.
That's right.
Right? If you look at Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi, when they made moves to say, well, maybe we're anti-dollar here, the U.S. showed them what was what. Mm-hmm. And that was the quote-unquote strong dollar policy that people are attaching to Trump now. Last I checked, I remember, by the way, when Larry Summers joined Obama,
yeah,
I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, forget change. Nothing's going to change. Absolutely nothing's going to change. He's got the same money people that was there 2 days ago.
Exactly.
So the strong dollar policy was based on the fact that there was nothing backing the dollar except military might. And that's gone.
Yep.
Right? Now, not in the sense of military might is gone, but in the sense of trying to keep the dollar strong or we will hurt you.
Or bully you around and kill you.
Yeah. So those things are done. Getting back to this discussion. So Chris Marcus says to Dave Kranzler, he says, well, talks about Judy Shelton. She wants to do a gold-backed treasury. This could be a great sort of monetary reset, return to common sense, return to the Constitution, and return to a gold standard of sorts. And Kranzler lost his mind. He completely lost his mind. He was basically saying the current system could not support it. That's not how the current system works. And I'm thinking, that's kind of the point, Dave, is that the system no longer works and it needs a big change. And having big change doesn't necessarily mean everything falls apart overnight. Mm-hmm. It just means that, okay, you've got to stop. And his whole thing, this was where it got crazy, Jerry. He said, if you stop government spending, like the market will crash. It's like,
who's going to build the roads?
If you're addicted to drugs, yes, you have to stop, and you're going to have to deal with those results, right?
You're going to wean off a bit.
Yeah. So you're just like, no. The idea here is not a strong dollar policy, by the way. In my opinion, my humble opinion, it's no manipulation of currencies. We want proper trade deals where the currencies don't fluctuate, and you can't manipulate your currency to undermine the deal we just did, so that we can make long-term economic decisions. This isn't another 4-year administration. They're building for a longer term gains for not just the U.S. but for everyone, and I think the BRICS will come into that as well. I don't think they're an enemy in this.
No, I think they're moving. Yeah, they're working together in tandem on the same goal. Because I think what I quote often, but Voltaire said it. Paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value of zero, and when we say zero, sure, the value is zero. You potentially lost 97% of your purchasing power with the Canadian dollar and the U.S. dollar, but zero credibility. And I think by going back and making Judy Shelton's system, you're making the dollar, the dollar strong again. You're making the dollar credible again.
Credible, strong is relative.
Correct.
And the funny thing is Dave Kranzler, by the way, he said, "Oh, so you're I'm not going verbatim, but." He said, "Oh, so you're assuming that the U.S. has the 8,000 tons of gold?" It's like,
yeah, you mentioned that.
So you're a conspiracy theorist now, right? Listen, one day they will open the door of that vault, and there will be product there because
that vault. May not be Fort Knox, it may not be West Point depositories, but it's there. They probably have more than 8,000 tons. And the fact of the matter is, Jeremy, when you did bring this up, we look at other countries who report their quote unquote reserves. We know that China, for example, reports 4,000 tons, but off the sheets, they have maybe 25,000 tons. And they do it through military because the military doesn't report their purchases, nor do they report how many ounces they have in reserves. Why? For national security purposes. And similarly, I'm not going to tell you how much gold I have at home or silver I have at home. I don't want you on my house. Mind you, I don't. Right? I'm in the industry. It's all in the vault. But for these privacy reasons, you don't disclose all of your holdings.
No, but I think it's part of I think it's something that's going to be coming down the pike. I think that it's all about transparency now. Right? Transparency of where the money's being spent, transparency of who did what when. The idea is to just start, releasing JFK stuff or, all 9/11 things. It's all about transparency and letting people know what the real story is of what's happening. And I think one of these days it's also going to be, okay, we're going to open the vaults and show you what we got. Everyone's going to have to lay their cards on the table. But certainly if central banks are buying it, the U.S. is going to participate in some way. Though I do wonder what happened to the gold that got airlifted out of Libya and airlifted out of Iraq and out of Ukraine when the revolution happened in 2014. So who knows where that gold went and who really owns it? We'll have to find out.
Yeah, we definitely have to find out. That got me thinking. Could it be on that strange island? We don't know.
What island?
Another time.
Okay. All right. Speaking of islands and those living completely free of any context, the Silver Institute had a meeting recently, and this is the Silver Institute that our friend John Forrest Little got kicked out of one of their events because he has done a ton of research and looked at the industrial value of silver in military usages. And of course, the Silver Institute came out with their new report, Jerry, and have they talked at all about the military usages?
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Silver Institute report came out earlier this week as they hosted their annual silver industry dinner in New York City, where the precious metals consultancy firm presented their review of their market. So we have the report here, and the global industrial demand is on track for silver for a new record high in 2024. The silver market is set to see a sizable structural deficit for the fourth consecutive year. Global silver demand is expected to rise 1 to 2%. Industrial demand forecast is rising 7% in 2024 to surpass 700 million ounces for the first time on record. So we're talking world record stuff here, not just Russia adding silver to the reserves, industrial demand, but omitting once again military applications. The canary in the coal mine, the biggest whale in the sea is being omitted. They're not being focused on. This is the big user, the military. And so they're not doing their job, the Silver. Thanks for the info, by the way. I do want to know about jewelry, Jeremy. Silver jewelry and silverware is going up too.
So it's kind of a report where you're saying your favorite team won, but they didn't beat anybody down. Yeah. It's like okay, silver's going to continue to rise, but it's not taking names. Right? It's not going crazy. They won't admit what the other usages are. Why do you think that is, by the way? Why do you think they just don't want to tell you the full scope of the usages?
Well, you then put a dent. If you're taking the silver away from the military and you take these, the military industrial complex, we're talking about a major arm of, control and hegemony in the U.S. and in the world. They need prices to remain tempered, but when you have the prices being usurped and sent overseas through the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Indian Bullion Exchange, who are pricing higher than the North Americans in London, we have a big problem. We have a big reset happening, not just resetting with the US dollar, but we're having a bigger reset with the physical commodity space. And it's ultimately, when we go through this exercise and we look at the Silver Institute, we do appreciate the data, but it does just coincide with what Bloomberg talks about earlier this week when they were digesting the Trump election data, pulling back in metals. Even today we're looking at 5 consecutive days down. This is a good dip to be buying on. They cited the fundamentals. The fundamental drivers for precious metals are still in place. Nothing, as you mentioned, has changed. The fundamental drivers remain: supply and demand, currency printing, manipulation of the interest rates, manipulation of the inflation data. I was driving the other day and I was listening to some Canadian radio station, and last week while I was driving, this expert was talking, and he said, we have inflation now under control despite rising prices. And I'm like, what a moron. What an oxymoron that would be. And how they have, just reprogrammed everything and redefined everything. We are living today in the biggest clown world.
we got about 30 seconds. Do you think that in the States they might go back to, is there a potential to go back to the John Williams reporting of inflation, speaking of transparency and things like that, do you think they might put their foot down and say, let's be real with the American public?
Yeah, I think because it was away from the John Williams shadow stats reports, like he's doing his job. But this reporting was actually replicated by Larry Summers' group. So it's going into the government coffers now. This is government papers that you're underreporting inflation. You can no longer use that inflation's under control. Inflation's not under control because as you print 4 times the size of the Canadian economy, you just blasted inflation. You can't just squirt an inferno with a squirt gun and start cutting interest rates. You know, we're cutting interest rates in December 18th for Canada, December 11th for the US. They're cutting. So they're just trapped. They're going to continue to manipulate everything. So what a clown world.
In other words, it's already done. It's been printed. It's in the mail. If you want to hold some physical precious metals, buy on the dip. It's a low risk entry point, costs you less. You've got every reason to be thinking about acquiring, maybe if you hold it already, acquiring some more on the dip. If you've never purchased, again, you want to buy in a low risk environment where the lower it is, that's more low risk entry point. It's also a cheaper time to get involved. This is absolutely the best time to get involved in physical precious metals. You can buy direct with Guildhall. You can acquire it and have it stored physically for ease of liquidity and security, something all Canadians need to be concerned about these days, and as well hold it physically allocated in your registered account. So much more to come on The Real Money Show. The number 18778-SILVER and the website guildhallwealth.com. The saying goes, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. With Guildhall, you acquire it, you take it home, you own it. If it's in a vault facility, you can go to the vault, personally audit, hold it in your hand, take delivery anytime. If you're holding it within your registered account, you get your serial number specifically for your account that's held in a sub-account. As well, you have the ability to go to the vault, personally audit. I said personally audit your holdings, which means you can hold it in your hand. A lot of times, Jerry, people will listen to their favorite gold analyst and they say, if you can't hold it, you don't own it, which is interpreted to mean unless you're buying it physically and taking it home.
It's under your mattress.
And it's under your mattress. That's the only way to go. And that's not true. There's lots of other analysts in the market who talk about, listen, if you're going to hold a lot of it, you need a vault, you need security, and you just want to make sure that the vault security that you're using has certain requirements, and these are the requirements: allocated, ability to go visit, ability to take delivery, these sorts of things. So we're happy to review all that with you if you have any questions. So Jerry, this came across my feed, and I want to use this as a segue to talk about crypto and precious metals as it relates to crypto, because there's, as usual, there's been a lot of comparisons this week on that topic. NVIDIA, accounts receivable have moved from 9 billion to 15 billion to show growth. This is posted by the Coastal Journal. AR means they've claimed sales but haven't collected the money. If NVIDIA keeps receivables to hit its QTR quarter beat, it can face accounting issues in the next 10K filing. That's very interesting. I'm going to be very curious to see how that plays out. That all this growth is account receivables, but they haven't actually got the money. It's
artificial growth.
Okay, so this week, Jerry, that's just something to note. Do your own research. We're not advisors. Bitcoin moved up a lot. We know that that Trump has embraced the crypto community, that he said he would be the crypto president. He would support them. And I guess my first comment to you, and I want to get your opinion, obviously, is that being pro doing whatever you want in the market is not necessarily saying, I love this, I want everyone to own it.
Correct.
Right? He can't come out and say those things, just like he can't come out and tell you, go buy property in Florida, around Mar-a-Lago. He can't tell you what to do. He cannot do those things. Mm-hmm. So embracing the ability to say, look, we don't like Gary Gensler. Guess what? Neither do we. Who
does?
Who does? We'd like the manipulations to end in the market just as much in our market as in any other market. But don't you think then that much, not all, but much of the crypto world has misinterpreted that?
I think so. I think a lot has been misinterpreted. I think I think there needs to be acceptance, and I think with any crypto, for it to be successful, you need adoption. And I think by having Trump supporting the growth, even regulation, getting some clarity about what it is, and he's all for it. It's freedom, similar to offering in El Salvador people the ability to use Bitcoin, use US dollars. You're giving people options. You're not just being authoritarian and you could only use this and that's it. Or going to Cuba and you have a local currency and then you have the main currency. It's not like that. You're given options. So you're freeing it up. So you're getting support, and it's I'm all for it. We as a company, we have some reserves. I think everyone should diversify, and I think overall, when we look at the crypto space and why we embrace it as well, I mean, we embrace precious metals as well because it's been through crises among crises, and it's still around today. It's the currency. It's going back to the currency. You lose credibility and trust. You start decimating the currency by overprinting. You have to give people an option, an off ramp.
Well, and one of the things about Bitcoin, first of all, it's always valued in US dollars. It's not valued on its own. And I hate to be making a comparison, but since people never seem to understand it, gold is a measurement. It's measured by weight. It's not measured.
Ounces, yes.
It's not measured by price. And gold was the original money, constitutional money. The dollar is a derivative of. If you think of like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, it's like there's gold in a vault somewhere, and we're using these pieces of paper. And the reason that the pieces of paper have validity is because there's proof, effectively, that there's physical gold in a vault that represents these pieces of paper.
And
that's represented by the pieces of paper.
And you can redeem it.
And the reason why the dollar is still used is not just because there's a value placed on it that comes out of nowhere. It's the fumes of that old system that people are misplacing, and a lot of it is the miseducation of just somehow they separated the two, and that people still aren't sure how that all works. So then they take that and they apply it to crypto. Now Bitcoin is a derivative of the dollar. So that means that if you put sanctions on Russia, Russia can say, okay, well, I'll just use Bitcoin. It's valued in US dollars. It's like using US dollars, and there's less of it. So it obviously, if there's less of it, the price can go up. So this is why I think the argument, coming from a gold guy, I just think so much of the time that the argument for crypto is just erroneous. It's like you can focus on good things. Hey, it's a derivative of a dollar that can't be printed infinitely. So in a way, you could curl back around through crypto to bring value back to the dollar and get rid of all the dollars, because they're basically the same. When people compare them, by the way, it's like if the dollar's a derivative of gold and Bitcoin's a derivative of the dollar, it's like you're comparing the son to the grandfather.
Yeah.
Let's versus the grandson versus the grandfather. What is it? They're the same tree.
You judge the
what gives it value?
Tree by the fruit. You judge the fruit by the tree. Exactly.
What gives it value? And then the best, I love this one. They go, you can't. There's an absolute limit, but you can increase the gold supply by 1.5% a year. Okay, 1.5. It will take you almost 100 years to double the supply. What side of the scale are we on, guys? Like these arguments are pretty loose, So it's a currency. People like it. They're financializing it. Good for them. We accept it. We're not in competition.
No. We do accept Bitcoin as payment for gold and silver, natural fancy colored diamonds. And just going back to in general terms, this is another diversifier. We diversify with the various assets. We believe in diversification, but going heavyweight into something that is undervalued. and that is finite. And looking at the Silver Institute's data, we see that silver is hard to come by right now. This is insurance against inflation and paper money that is that's losing its purchasing power by dominant central bankers who don't have your interests in hand. They're printing it, and they're printing it on the back of your children's and your children's children. This is future inflationary passed on. And, to cite a market analyst this week, this is Xfinity's group chief market analyst, Han Tan. He said mainstream markets are somehow dismissing gold as a hedge against inflation. I'm sorry. You can say that all you want, but this is historic. Gold has protected against the dollar. Silver has. If you go to goldprice.org, gold has defended against currency's devaluation by an average of 10% since 2009. We're using this data that I have in front, printed today, Thursday, November the 14th. Gold price performance versus these basket of currencies, which is the dollar index, US dollar, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, Chinese yuan, euro, pound, on average 10% per year. Gold does protect against inflation and currency devaluation. Right now, there is a push to dissuade people away from gold and silver, and we're just here to tell you that don't be dissuaded. The market is moving towards gold and silver. There's a standard coming. Follow the yellow brick road, because all roads lead to bringing credibility back to the dollar.
And since Dorothy left the Oz, capital O, little Z, little Z,
not Australia.
Thank you. Let's in the next segment discuss if the Federal Reserve will outlast the next 4 years. The number 18778 silver and the website guildhallwealth.com. Very important to have an asset that's negatively correlated to the dollar, that has no counterparty risk, and that means having an actual hard asset in your portfolio, something that cannot disappear, and that is physical gold and physical silver. Give us a call. We'll show you how to hold it in your portfolio, show you how to get it into a registered account. Jerry, last week, Chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, said he can't be fired. Well, can the Fed exist within the next 4 years? Your thoughts?
Definitely going to change. We're going to see some huge changes happening with the Federal Reserve. The gloves are off. Powell said he would not resign, even if Congress moves to audit the Fed and see where all that money went. The showdown is coming today. We're going to hear what he has to say. Powell probably still has his gloves on. He's probably going to be very defensive against the crosshairs that are on the Federal Reserve. They are totally in panic mode, which is why we're seeing, in my opinion, the market's going crazy. Let's not look at gold and silver. Let's look at this market. Let's look at that market. No, let's focus on the Federal Reserve, the very entity that once said, give me the power to create the nation's money, and I don't care who makes its laws. They're throwing every trick in the book to dissuade gold and silver acquisitions. But who are selling? Nobody. Powell, though, he's not backing down. He said he's going to stay independent, even stating he's not going to resign, as you said, even though they just cut rates. Again, they're going to keep cutting rates. The market's saying that Trump's tariffs are going to be inflationary, which means that under Trump's presidency, they're going to keep rates high.
But they're a bargaining tool. They're a bargaining tool. It's a last. If we can't get the deal done, you hold that back as here's the consequences. Let's get a deal done, right? The idea is to avoid them, not have them put into place. Anyway, I think that the memes like Tyson and Paul, right, with the fight coming up, I think we're going to see those with Jake Paul. I think we're going to see those with Jerome Powell and Trump as they battle for control over the monetary system of the United States. So listen, that's going to be a show.
Yeah, it's a showdown.
Ultimately, the debts are in place. All the fundamentals have not changed. Call us, email us. We're happy to talk to you about all of those things and find out why we're so excited about where gold and silver are headed over the next several years, because none of the fundamentals have changed, and it only means that the prices can go much, much higher from here. If you want to get involved in the market, go to our website, guildhallpreciousmetals.com. If you want to get involved in the registered accounts, you can go to guildhallwealth.com. If you've missed a show, you can check us out on YouTube. You can check us out on Rumble, Please follow us on X. There's some cool stuff that we're putting out and reposting, some great information there. Jerry, great to have you back. Great to chat with you this week. Want to thank everyone for joining us. And again, the number 1-877-8-SILVER, the website, guildhallwealth.com. Thanks for joining us here on The Real Money Show on 640 Toronto.